Hello, everyone. Are you able to hear me? I hope no audio issues. Okay, great. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us this morning for Paths to Publication. We're so excited to be here with Dr. Sun today. So for those of you who are new to Paths to Publication, this is a virtual event hosted by the Center for Research and Development in Dual Language and Literacy Acquisition and the ELRC, Education Outreach, and the Graduate Student Advisory Council on everything that graduates need to know from writing, publishing, research, grants, and the graduate experience. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box and they will be answered towards the end of our discussion. I'm going to stop sharing. Hello, and I'm your host, Marine Kashikayas, and I'd like to read out a bit of Dr. Sun's introduction. So Dr. Sun is a professor of educational leadership in the Department of Educational Leadership Policy and Technology Studies at the College of Education, University of Alabama. Her research is about educational leadership policy evaluation and improvement and research synthesis. Her policy experience through her work at the Ontario Ministry of Education in Canada before joining the faculty at the University of Alabama was mainly about the large-scale development of school and district leaders. She published reviews of research on transformational school leadership and successful school leadership in Elsewhere International Encyclopedia of Education. She has also published in top-tier journals in educational leadership, including several papers in leading journals like Educational Administration Quarterly. Her co-edited book with Dr. Kenneth Leetwood and Karina Pollock, How School Leaders Contribute to Student Success, The Four Paths, has been widely cited and is the 22nd volume of the longest-running book series in educational leadership, Studies in Educational Leadership by Springer. With that, we'd love to hear more from Dr. Sun, and we're so happy that on a recent trip, our team, Dr. Guerrero and team, Dr. Irby, everyone was able to meet her. Over to you, Dr. Sun.
Thank you so much, Maureen, for introduction and hosting this session. Good morning, everyone. Today, I'd like to discuss and share with you tips and strategies and personal experiences for successfully navigating academic publishing. And it's my great pleasure to meet with you. I was told the audience include students, faculty, and international partners. I'm not sure the session would be useful to faculty as they have published a lot, but I do hope the session could be useful to doctoral students and maybe postdoc as well. And it's an honor to share with you my experience, and thank you so much for invitation, and many thanks to Dean Irving's invitation and your center. Thank you. So for doctoral students, whether you're just starting out in your publishing journey, or if you're looking to refine your approach, I hope this session could be useful. I'm going to share with you my slide. Can you see my slide well? Okay. Great, thank you so much. And I put my email there in case you have questions. Okay, so why we publish? Think about that for a few seconds. I know we don't have time for a discussion, but I like to give you a few seconds to think about why we publish. Publishing is essential for building expertise in your field. And by contributing new knowledge, you are not only enhancing your personal academic standing, but also improving your career prospects. Publishing also allows you to expand your academic and professional networks. as your work reaches a larger, wider audience. This is the key to establishing your reputation in your field. And there are different types of publications, as you know, journals, journal articles, which are peer-reviewed, presenting original research and are perhaps the most common type of publications. Conference papers are presented at conferences and often published as proceedings. Books and also book chapters allow you to contribute to larger academic works, especially on special topics. Review articles such as systematic review, meta-analysis, meta-synthesis, narrative review, those reviews summarize the state of the field, the research, literature on particular topics. And also we have technical reports and also like research briefing. So choosing the right publication format is an important decision based on your research, your career goals, and also your audience. The process of writing for publication begins with selecting a topic that aligns with your current academic discussions, your topic and nature of your research. And then you need to choose a type of publication, like to choose a journal or conference presentation or book chapter. It's fairly easy to decide between journals and chapters. So today I will focus a little bit on how to choose a journal. And also when you publish, you need to think about what is the contribution of your study? What is the originality of your study? That helps you to choose the different types of publications as well. And finally, before submitting, make sure to get feedback from your colleagues and mentors. Make sure you also follow the publication guidelines of a particular journal or from conference. Peer review is not just a procedure, a formality. Actually, it's an essential part, a process of learning, an essential part of refining your work and also deepening your thinking. So when you select a research topic, it's important to be familiar with the knowledge base in your field. What are the major lines of inquiry? Are there any emerging topics that have not been extensively studied? What are the cornerstone inquiries? Finding a topic where you can make a novel contribution will increase the chances of your work being published and cited and noticed. I'm in a leadership field. I'd like to give you an example. You may ask, well, how do I know the knowledge base in my field? How do I know the major inquiries in my field? You would develop this understanding as you take courses and learn from different professors. And finally, you learn about this piece and that aspect. And then finally, you will have an overall understanding of your field, the knowledge base, what we know and what we don't know. Another quicker way is to look at the major reviews, very influential reviews written by the top researchers in your field. For example, in my field, Philip Hellinger, Professor Philip Hellinger has written a very good review, bibliometric review, to map out research in our field, published from 1960 to 2018. This is the figure I took from his article that is published in Review of Educational Research, which is the top journal in education across hundreds of disciplines. Very good review. So if you look at this picture, the larger the bubble is, more frequently that topic has been examined. over the past years, especially recent years. So the largest bubble on the picture you can see is school leadership, right? So according to him, school leadership for improving student learning has become the anchor of the knowledge base in our field, especially in the past 20, 30, 40 years. And if you look at other large bubbles, it could be related to schools, principalship, school management, and school leadership and school improvement, educational policy. And also, yeah, there's a big bubble here, higher education. So from such reviews, you will know, oh, okay, school leadership for improving student treatment is a really, really big topic, and it's cornerstone inquiry in our field. So if I can do something related to that, you would know your paper or your study or article will have likely long shelf life because it's a topic very much frequently examined for especially in the last a few decades. Well, if you want to examine something like school leadership during the pandemic, yes, it's a very needed emerging topic. It's very good. But if you publish a study on leadership during the pandemic, it could be popular for maybe 5 years, but 10 years later, that topic might not be that popular anymore. So the shelf life for your paper article could be short, not very long. So you can think about your topics in relation to the major inquiries in your field. Okay. So first, you want to choose the right place to publish. Choosing the right journal or conference is critical. Make sure the journal aligns with the scope of your research. When you choose a journal, you want to consider some factors, very important factors, like impact factors, ranking, but also you can also consider open access options, which can improve the visibility of your work. You also want to look at the turnaround time. You don't want to wait too long for a paper to be published before you apply for academic jobs. And also, when you write, be sure to follow the manuscript guidelines carefully. For conferences, I would suggest you to select reputable ones because those ones offer valuable network opportunities. And it also is good in your CV. In my field, the top conference in educational leadership is the annual meeting of UCEA. And also I would suggest you to attend AERA, the top conference in education, this broad field across disciplines. Okay, and then the next question you may probably ask is, how do I know the top journals in my field? Well, you can get this gradually by working with your mentors and to see where they publish, and also you can learn about this from your course taking, and your professor will tell you, well, this is an article from top journal, something. Another way that you can identify the top journals is, of course, simply Google. And also look at some journal ranking companies' website, like a scientific journal ranking, SJR. And also, you can look at some very good reviews written by top flight researchers in your field. For example, this table 1 is taken from the article I just mentioned, written by Professor Hallinger. He and his associates looked at the journal ranking, the indices like impact factors, citations, and they finally came up with a list of top journals in our field or related to educational leadership. For example, the first one is Economics of Education Review. But that is related to our field. But within our field, the top one is Educational Administration Quarterly. The next one, Educational Leadership, that is also top journal, but that is oriented towards practitioners. Many top professors, scholars in our field, they also write for educational leadership, the professional journal, because they want to share their important findings using accessible language to practitioners, principals, superintendents, and policymakers. Okay, so this is another way that you can get to know those top journals. And then you want to look at the journal features. I'm going to share with you an example. Okay. I'll make it a little bit larger if I can. Okay, it might be too large. Sorry. Okay, can you see my screen? Yes, okay, wonderful. So here, in the first section, I listed the top journals, major journals in my field. There are 8 to 10 journals. For example, EAQ, Journal of School Leadership, JEA. And then I listed the top journals for practitioners, like Educational Leadership, Education Week. And then the good review journals, like Review of Educational Research. This is the top 1 journal, premier journal in education across disciplines like psychology, teaching, curriculum. And another one is also good, Harvard Educational Review, very good journal, top 1. And also in my field, there's some different concentrations like policy, educational change. So some top journals in policy, for example, Journal of Educational Policy, Education Policy Analysis Archives, and Change. For example, School Effectiveness and School Improvement is the top journal in educational change. And also, there are some journals, they accept studies from different fields in education, like Research in Education, American Educational Research Journal. You can consider those journals that have broad scope as well. And some journals in broader disciplines closely related to educational administration. For example, education philosophy and theory. So this is the journal I gradually accumulate and come up with. So maybe you can consider doing this as well and try to identify the major journals in your field for academics and also for practitioners, and also the journals related to your field that you can contribute to as well. Okay, so after you identify journals, and then you want to look at, which specific journal I want to send my paper to, this specific topic. And then, okay, I'll show you how I did it. Okay, can you see my screen? It's an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, thank you. So what I did, actually, I started, but then later I asked my doctoral student to help me. So we listed those journals I just mentioned, the journals in our field and also are related to our field. And then we look at their features on their websites. We looked at their scope description, and the manuscript guidelines, impact factor, and we checked the journal ranking. And for example, you can check the journal ranking from SJR, and you look at acceptance rate. On some websites, it's indicated there, very easy. You can pick up, but sometimes they don't provide that information, and you can reach out to editors. They are more than happy to share with you. It's not something they want to cover. It's there. And also you want to look at the turnaround time. And again, for this information, some journals, they just provide this information on their website, but some don't. In that case, you can just email editors or even the journal manager. Editing manager can also tell you. Okay, for example, if I want to choose between these journals, I first look at, if you look at the column about acceptance rate, you would say, leadership and policy in schools. Look at that orange row. Acceptance rate is 34%. Oh, that's great, especially for junior PhD students. You can try this one. However, if you look at the next column, the turnaround time is 86 days average from submission to the first decision. So you may think about that. Oh my goodness, it's a long time, right? And if you look at this one, the one above the yellow one, Journal of Educational Policy. This is a fairly good journal. However, you found that's not a tier 1 journal, it's a tier 2 journal based on impact factor. And you may think, that's okay. I'm just a beginner. My first time to submit my paper. Let me shoot this one. It's tier 2, but it's a well-known. Journal of Educational Policy is well-known. And then you look at acceptance rate. Oh my goodness, it's 7%. So even though it's not tier 1, it's tier 2, maybe many people want to shoot for this journal. So the acceptance rate actually is very low, 7%. And think about that. But the advantage is it only takes 11 days on average from submission to the first decision. So that's a good thing. And you may also consider to submit to Educational and Administration Quarterly, tier 1 premier journal in our field. Acceptance rate not that bad, 10%, but it needs 2 or 3 months for the first decision. But sometimes it could be you can get decision like within a month if the editors decide not to send your paper to external reviewers. So in that case, you may get decision much quicker. And of course, we don't want that. So those are the factors I would encourage you to look at when you choose the journals. Okay. And I'm going to share with you that my slides. Here. Oops, going back. Okay, can you see my screen? Yes, all right. So finally, after you choose your topic and work very hard, and then write up and then submit, And here is the review process. Before you submit, you want to also know the review process of that journal, like double blind or single blind, open review. And then yeah, it's good to know that as well. And finally, you submit. And then you waited. And when you receive comments from reviewers, that is time while you sit down and respond to each review comment point by point. That's very important, point by point, respectfully and comprehensively. And you revise your work and then resubmit on time. You will use this process as a learning process. Feedback should be used to improve the quality of your research. And sometimes when you look at the review comments, you feel even angry, you feel sometimes upset because you really think you have provided very clear explanation for something, but the reviewer said, oh, lack of explanation for something. Don't worry, in that case, it's easy fix. You can simply write in your response letter, well, I provided explanation on page 3 to 5. And sometimes you can tell it happens. The reviewer comments kind of show they didn't actually look at your paper carefully. They missed some information. And sometimes you may feel their comments might not be appropriate or not reasonable. In that case, I would suggest you to talk with professors or mentors and your co-authors. If you really think the comment is not reasonable, you can write politely saying something like, well, we appreciate your comment, but we don't think the suggestion is reasonable or is feasible or suitable because explain reasons. So that therefore we didn't provide any revision or response to their comment, but we are open for further discussion, something like that. And then the editors or editor of the journal, they would look at your response and original review comments, and because they have review comments from different reviewers, and they will decide what to do next. So the main idea is you would use the feedback constructively as a learning process. And sometimes, yes, you do get rejections. Actually, it's very common, but that's totally okay. Rejections are a normal part of publishing process, so don't be discouraged or disappointed. Instead, learn from them. And sometimes you get frustrated, really disappointed. At that time, I would suggest you to talk with your co-authors, especially your mentors, ask them to look at your paper. And they're very experienced, usually your mentors, and I'm very sure they will give you very good advice regarding how to revise and where to submit. The main idea is you will need to address major concerns. Usually the major concerns are the consensus from reviewers. And then you revise accordingly and resubmit elsewhere. Okay. So this way, you publish and revise and publish again. So this way, you would build a robust publication record. To do that, it really involves diversifying the different types of publications, books, chapters, journal articles, conference presentations. Sometimes you may think about open access journals. I wouldn't recommend you to pay and publish in open access journals, but I do recommend you to consider very good open access journals like AERA Open, very prestigious, and also tier one online journals. For example, I have a paper that is a method synthesis of research on successful school leadership across countries based on about 100 case studies. So we like to have more audience to access the results because it's related to different countries. So we choose tier one online journal. So you can think about that. And also if you want to increase your citation rate, you can think about a top tier online journal as well. Again, I'm never paid for to publish online. So you can consider those best online journals when you have the opportunity that you don't pay, which means when you are invited to write in those journals. Okay, and also I would like to suggest you collaborate with your mentors and senior researchers. So you walk on two legs in two paths. In one way, on one hand, you learn from them, co-author with them, because their publications are usually have much more visibility and more likely to be cited widely and touch upon very important topics in your field. But on the other hand, you also learn from this process and then you publish your study with you as the lead or sole author and keep profiles updated in like Google Scholar, ResearchGate. And sometimes cite your own studies if relevant and appropriate. This will help to build up your publication record. And finally, remember, publishing is a process. Your persistence is the key. So best of luck with your publishing your studies. And thank you so much for joining this session. I'm happy to take any question you may have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sun. This is really a great learning because especially doctoral students who are in the middle or maybe starting that journey. So when they're already starting to read up journals, I think it's also important to read those journals with the kind of specifications that you've highlighted, not just for their readings, but also, who's publishing, the backgrounds, the overall impact of that journal acceptance rate. So we already need to, from the very start, consider a variety of journals. And we can already see in the chat box, so scholars on that journey are finding it interesting. So you are able to unmute yourself. That says to the participants, if you have a question, you could raise a hand or you could just unmute yourself. Let me know if you have any questions for Dr. Sun right now. Because I have a question, Dr. Sun. So the first time ever when you collaborated with a senior, right, how difficult was it to do that? And, what basically, how did you approach it, the collaboration? Did you do it through your topic? Or did you first, or was it through initial relationship building? Or did you already start writing about, a subject that, your senior scholar was interested in?
Thanks, Maureen, for your question. Yes, that's a typical one. When I was in my doctor program, I worked with my mentor, Dr. Leeswood, for 5 years as his GRA. So he has a lot of projects. So I did data collection and analysis for him. So naturally, for example, he was writing a chapter on teacher emotions, and my task as his GRA was to collect publications on that topic and come up with a summary table to outline the studies and also the findings, and and contribute this way. And he kindly included me as a co-author. So that's how I started. So basically, I work with professors and do data analysis, data collection, that part initially, and I did this for quite a few years, and later I can write a little bit, contribute to writing, write the findings, and later I can write a little bit more. And then I learn all this through this process, and then later I can write my own paper. Yeah, I also published my master thesis. Yes, the way that I published that one is very interesting. I saw a call for competition, writer competition. It's called Emerging Scholar Writing Competition from a journal, and I sent oh, this is this one is based on assignment from a few courses, and I incorporate my writings from a few courses, and I sent that review to that journal, and it was accepted. I was the winner of the award from that journal. So one bonus is they will publish the paper. So that's how I published. I think my first paper, I guess, and then later I published my master's thesis, but that one was heavily edited by my master's advisor. And then later I worked with my dissertation advisor, Dr. Candice Wood, and I published a lot with him on his projects.
Right. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's so helpful. So I think communication is key. It is important to stay in very close communication with your mentors, advisors, peers, because you get to learn through that. Anyone has any questions?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Dr. Sun. This is a very informative presentation. I think it will be very useful for doctoral students and some postdoc researchers like me. I have another question. It's like the some of the journals they may charge you for a certain amount for their article processing fee, and some of it is a mandatory, like you have to pay to like have your paper published, and some of the journals charge you a bit for an optional open access fee. And to be very honest, it's a quite amount, especially for some emerging scholars and doctoral students like me. And sometimes it's hard for us to have it covered. If it's optional, that's kind of fine. Then we can just opt out from being open access. But if mandatory, that'll be a huge problem. So, do you have any suggestion, like when we're in this kind of situation where we can seek out for help?
Thank you for question. Yes, you're not alone. I think, yeah, many students ask this question. As far as I'm aware that some universities, they have contract with online journals. So the university covers the publication fees, journal processing fees. So you may wish to talk with your professors or administrators. Some universities pay for this. They have kind of contract. But if they don't, you really need to think about whether to pay or not. At this point, I think your scholarship is usually assessed mostly still by your publication in traditional journals, like the major journals, not OA journals. But as I mentioned, I would, really encourage you to think about the OA journals that are tier one, and also very prestigious, like AERA Open is one of the top journals in our field, even though it's OA. So for that type of journals, you really need to, debate with yourself whether pay to publish or not. But in most cases, I would still recommend you to look at the traditional major journals in our field. But when you
Thank you.
apply for academic jobs, professors, they still consider your publication in those well-known traditional journals. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. You have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. I believe there are some other questions.
In the
Okay.
chat box, yes, there's one question. Dr. San, it says, what is the lowest impact factor journal one can choose? And the other question is from Minu, and she's asking, how do you deal with the disappointment of getting a lot of revision notes and not take it personally? So I'm trying to see it as a growth opportunity, but it can be tough. So do you have any tips? So two things, the lowest impact factor journal, and how do you deal with disappointment?
Thank you. About the low impact journal, yes, I would caution you to publish there, because publication is one thing that counts. Of your publication is one thing, but also you want to have impact in your field. So your impact in your field is usually can be assessed by the indicators like citation rate counts, and H index, which means who cited your article and how frequently in which journal. So if you publish in low impact journals, the citation rate would be low as well, which means even though you publish your study, but its influence is not there, or not much. So you will need to consider that. And about this deal with disappointment, yes, I experienced that quite a few times. But if you're really frustrated, disappointed, you just stay away from your desk, listen to the music, and do something you like, and then come back 1 or 2 or a few days later, and then you will calm down and try to respond to the comments. And again, if it's helpful, it's a reasonable comment, you will respond adequately. But if you really think that's unreasonable, talk with your professors, and then respond politely, saying, well, we decided not to respond to this comment, and why. You provide explanation. So
thank you so much.
Get used to it, later.
Yes. So I think essentially it's also important to have that work, study, and life balance. So on that note, really appreciate your time, Dr. San, and it seems like the session was extremely helpful for a lot of students, but I'm sure even those who were towards the end of their scholarship journey. All right, thank you so much, everyone, the guests, for joining in, for your comments, feedback, and yes, a lot of feedback here. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Song. It was a pleasure hosting you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marianne. It's a great pleasure to talk with you. Good luck with your publishing.
Thank you.